I used to be trapped in that same expensive gardening cycle. Buy more fertilizer, see it wash off, then repeat. But I discovered a plant often ignored as a weed that doubles its weight every 3 days. It sucks pure nitrogen from the sky, working way faster than any compost or chemical I have ever tested. For over a millennium, farmers across Asia used it to grow rice without buying one bag of fertilizer. We have mostly never heard its name. Subscribe for more lost history. So how did this world-class nitrogen generator become public enemy number one? I wondered what happens when you unleash this hidden powerhouse in a simple backyard bucket. From the Yangtze to the Red River Delta, I saw how a quiet partnership built the foundation of Asian agriculture for over 1,000 years. Way before chemicals lined the shelves, farmers relied on a plant floating just under the surface, a delicate fern called azolla. Ancient texts from the 6th century describe how farmers would scatter this thick green layer across their rice paddies. To me, the method was simple yet powerful. While azolla grew, it pulled nitrogen from the air, feeding the rice a steady stream of nutrients every single season. By the 11th century, whole villages in northern Vietnam focused strictly on growing azolla. Cultures passed from hand to hand, guarded as carefully as my own family heirlooms. In those communities, I saw how azolla's value was woven into every local tradition. Legends tell of monks or wise women who finally unlocked the secret of this floating fertilizer. I read that local temples honored these discoverers, and stories told of how this plant was once fiercely protected. Stealing azolla from a neighbor's pond supposedly invited the harshest punishments imaginable. Fact or myth? I can see that the deep respect for azolla endured. Across Asia, I imagine farmers watched in awe as azolla mats thickened in just a few days. Its growth was unstoppable, doubling every 3 days when the conditions were just right. In one season, a field became a living carpet, killing weeds and feeding rice a rush of nitrogen. Later, researchers confirmed my suspicions. Azolla fixes up to 1,000 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare yearly, far more than any legume or compost. This was about more than just old traditions. Entire harvests relied on this fern and its tiny partner, a bacterium living inside the leaves. Together, they transformed air and sunlight into the fuel that built massive rice empires. To me, azolla's story isn't lost magic, it's practical genius. Like this video for more secrets. Tested and proven in the muddy boots of farmers who fed entire nations without ever needing one bag of chemical fertilizer. I watched factories rise on city outskirts, their smoke curling over fields that once relied on azolla. Back in 1910, chemists Fritz Haber and Karl Bosch unveiled a process that pulled nitrogen from the air to create ammonia at a massive industrial scale. I don't think the world had ever seen anything like it. By the 1920s, factories were churning out tons of synthetic nitrogen every single day. Their promise was very simple: endless harvests, no matter the soil quality. I saw governments and experts throw all their weight behind this new chemistry. Agents fanned out across the globe, urging every farmer to abandon their old-fashioned growing methods. Those green mats of azolla were suddenly dismissed as ancient relics. Now the answer came in powdered sacks, bagged and delivered by train. By the 1950s, synthetic nitrogen fueled the Green Revolution, leading to record yields of wheat and rice. Fields, once reliant on living fertilizer, now soaked up chemicals manufactured in plants running day and night. To me, the scale was absolutely staggering. In just a few decades, this process completely transformed our global agriculture. By the 1970s, over half of the world's food production relied on synthetic nitrogen. Those numbers told the whole story. One factory could outproduce millions of acres of azolla. Comment your thoughts below. I watched fertilizer become a commodity traded in dollars and yen. But for me, that shift had cost. I once closed the loop cycling nutrients with plants and animals, but now I find myself buying inputs year after year. Those old self-renewing systems faded from memory. Nitrogen, once free and floating in every breath, became something I must purchase, store, and spread. My connection between plant and soil was replaced by a dependence on big industry. Azolla, which I call green gold, was rebranded as a weed. It no longer fit the modern definition of progress. The story of Fertilizer became a story of scale efficiency and profit, one that left little room for a fern that doubled itself quietly in the corner of a pond. What I lost was not just a method, but a model of abundance needing no factory. Please subscribe for more now. Today, as the price of inputs rises and questions about sustainability grow louder, I see the old ways are stirring again, offering a different path. One that starts not with a purchase, but with a handful of green. A 5-gallon bucket, a handful of azolla, and a bit of patience. These are the only essentials I use for my perpetual fertilizer engine. I start with clean, dechlorinated water in any container. I add a scoop of garden soil or spoonful of compost to the water first. It's not just tradition, it's pure chemistry. My azolla's secret engine anabaina needs phosphorus to kick into high gear. Without phosphorus, growth stalls and my fronds turn a tired red. With phosphorus, the system launches into overdrive. I spread a starter clump of azolla across the water's surface. The floating leaves hide a microscopic world beneath their tiny fingernail-sized surface. Inside every tiny leaf cavity, my colonies pull nitrogen from the air and turn it into plant-ready ammonia for my own garden. It is not slow. Under the right conditions, between 20 and 28 degrees Celsius with a little shade, and that phosphorus, my azolla's biomass, doubles every 3 days. What starts as a thin green film fills my bucket in a week. Containment matters. Its reputation as a weed comes from its ability to escape and overrun my ditches. A simple mesh screen or a tight-fitting lid keeps the fern in its place and prevents wind or animals from spreading it beyond my bucket. I need no pumps or gear. Please like this. I keep it simple. I check the water, add a sprinkle of compost if leaves fade, and harvest half the mat every few days. The rest handles itself for me. This is gardening stripped to its essentials. Biology doing the heavy lifting with a little help from my own hand. Every 3 days, the bucket surface thickens into a dense green mat. That is my signal that it's harvest time. The method is easy. I scoop away half, leaving the rest to rebound quickly. My 50% rule is not just a simple trick for speed. It's how I lock in a cycle of exponential growth. Each harvest resets the clock and triggers another round of doubling itself. With a single bucket, my routine delivers a steady yield enough to keep a vegetable garden in constant supply of fresh living fertilizer. The real advantage comes down to what's inside those delicate little fronds. My nitrogen ratio is 10:1. Comment your thoughts. I will compare that to straw or wood chips, where the ratio hits closer to 100:1. Materials high in carbon trap nitrogen as they rot, stealing it from my crops and slowing my compost to a crawl. My azolla does the complete opposite. Since its carbon is so low, microbes devour it the moment it hits the dirt, feeding my garden almost instantly. There is no lag time. I am not waiting around for weeks. Just like the best green manures, these nutrients go straight to work for me. It is instant food for my plants. This cycle harvest, refill, repeat turns my simple bucket into a non-stop fertility engine. Every scoop I grab holds way more than just green leaves. It is a bundle of nitrogen, protein, and minerals all made here without me ever driving to the store. The whole process feels almost automatic. As long as I keep the water full and phosphorus flowing, my cycle never stops. For me, this is a steady stream of free fertilizer harvested right when my garden needs it most. Remember to subscribe for more. No waste, no guessing, just a living supply of nutrients ready whenever I start a new crop. A fresh handful of azolla from my bucket is truly the fastest green manure I have ever used. I spread it thick around my tomatoes or corn, and these fronds vanish in under 48 hours. In 2 days, the mat melts into the earth, dumping nitrogen and leaving a rich, dark mulch. I do not have to wait weeks like I do with clover or vetch. Azolla has so little carbon that soil microbes unlock those nutrients for me almost instantly. My plants explode with growth, their leaves turning deep green as that nitrogen hits the roots. When my compost pile stalls in the cold, I use azolla to jumpstart the whole thing. I mix in a fresh harvest, and the pile temperature can spike within a single day. That sudden rush of nitrogen wakes up my microbes, turning a slow heap into a steaming engine. When I measure my pile, I see the thermometer climb 10 or 15 degrees overnight. What used to take months now flies by, giving me finished compost way ahead of schedule. My favorite use for this is as a liquid feed. I just steep the harvested fronds in water for about 1 week. What I get is a dark green tea packed with soluble nutrients. I strain and dilute it. Then I pour it around my hungry crops or use it as a foliar spray. Unlike store-bought chemicals, I never worry about burning roots, and every drop is homegrown. Through mulch, compost, and tea, my bucket provides a non-stop supply of free natural fertility. These methods mean I stop relying on bottles and take control of my soil. Hit that like button if you agree. To me, these numbers rewrite organic gardening rules. In field trials, this tiny fern fixes 1,100 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare yearly, beating even the best legumes. That is more nitrogen than my backyard could use in 10 years, all from a plant floating on my water. Its protein rivals soybeans, making up 25 to 35% of its dry weight. By comparison, my usual green manures like clover rarely top 20%. Every scoop I pull from that bucket is way more than green mass. It is a concentrated dose of protein and nitrogen built from nothing but the sun and the air. I find the science behind this output is truly elegant. My azolla leaves shelter bacteria that pull nitrogen from the air and turn it into ammonia for my plants. This partnership is so fast that in the right conditions, my azolla doubles in just 2 or 3 days. Nothing else in my garden matches this pace. The carbon ratio stays 10-to-1, rotting instantly. Comment below and tell me if you have ever grown this amazing fern. For gardeners like me, used to waiting weeks for compost to mature, this kind of speed changes everything. I have found that azolla's impact goes way beyond my own backyard. 49 million years ago, during the Eocene epoch, massive azolla blooms in the Arctic Ocean pulled so much carbon dioxide from the air that they helped cool our entire planet. Scientists call this the azolla event, a natural experiment in planetary engineering. In the 1980s, NASA experts studied azolla for deep space life support, drawn by its insane growth rate and its incredible power to fix nitrogen. Even in the harshest spots, azolla's microbial engine delivered results where my old chemical fertilizers just could not. To me, the numbers are clear. Azolla is definitely not just a weed. It's a living machine proven by centuries of tradition, modern science, and even the ambitions of space travel. But unchecked azolla becomes a threat. Subscribe for more garden secrets. In rivers and lakes, its explosive growth forms dense mats that block sunlight and strip oxygen from the water below. Fish and aquatic life suffocate as the green layer thickens, and I've seen whole ecosystems collapse in mere weeks. Incidents in places like Florida and Ontario led to emergency removals, with azolla listed as a restricted species in several regions. In the United States, azolla pinnata is a federally regulated weed. Some states, including California and Florida, ban its sale or transport entirely. In the United Kingdom, it's not always named on invasive lists, but releasing any non-native plant into the wild can bring steep fines. Ontario has rules that prohibit even simple possession. These laws are not aimed at us gardeners. They're a response to the real environmental damage caused by careless releases. For me, containment is absolutely non-negotiable. I use a 5-gallon bucket with a tight-fitting lid to keep azolla from escaping on the wind or rain. Never dump your water or fronds into storm drains, ponds, or ditches. When I harvest, I collect every scrap and dry it completely before composting or bagging it for the landfill. In cold climates, I've noticed azolla slows to a standstill below 15 degrees Celsius. To keep my system alive through winter, I move the bucket indoors to a sunny window or insulate it with bubble wrap. If a crop goes dormant or dies, I remove the material and dispose of it very safely. Don't ever flush it outdoors, even if the water looks clear. I believe we gardeners are stewards not just of our own plots, but of the wider environment. Every precaution we take, sealed buckets, and respecting local laws protects both the power of azolla and the health of our local waterways. By keeping this living fertilizer contained, it remains a tool for my abundance rather than a threat. The promise of free perpetual nitrogen comes with a responsibility to harvest use and dispose of Azala in ways that close the loop without ever letting it slip past my garden gate. Today, as fertilizer prices soar, Azala's quiet revolution sits ignored in my buckets, not in corporate boardrooms. This plant can fix up to 1,100 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare each year, all without a patent or price tag. In a world of scarcity, abundance hides in plain sight. Like this video, what else are we calling a weed because it threatens the system? Let me know your thoughts below.